Hi friends, welcome to my channel and today we will do AWS Certified Solution Architect Exam Associate Practice Exam. What does that mean? It is a mock exam. So if you will face the real exam, the format and the questions would be same. So this will help you to prepare better for the exam. If you are hoping to give the exam, this will be a very good preparation. So before we start our test, I would request you to subscribe to my channel. Now in this exam, the pattern is you will get 65 questions and you will get 2 hours and 10 minutes. So roughly you have 2 minutes to solve each question and passing score is 72%, which means you have to do at least like you can make 18 mistakes, 18 or less, and that is how you would pass the exam. So let's begin. All the questions will be multiple choice questions. And this is our question number one. Here you see the time is passing by. So all these questions, if you want, you can pause the video and take down the notes of question and answers. It will help you to prepare well. So the question one, a game company has a requirement of load balancing the incoming TCP traffic at transport level to their containerized gaming servers hosted in AWS Fargate. Now, Fargate is a service which do the container, what we say is serverless container service. To maintain performance, it should handle millions of requests per second sent by gamers around the globe while maintaining ultra low latency. Which of the following must be implemented in current architecture to satisfy the new requirement? So this will be launch a new network load balancer. The reason is there is a game company which has a requirement to do load balancing. So obvious answer is network load balancer, but why not application load balancer? Because layer 4 and when you need high traffic and with low latency, you should go with the network load balancer instead of application load balancer. That would give you ultra low latencies. Question two, a large Philippine-based business process outsourcing company is building a two-tier web application in their VPC to serve dynamic transaction-based content. The data tier is leveraging an online transaction processing database, but for the web tier, they are still deciding what service they will use. What AWS services should you leverage to build an elastic and scalable web tier? So for building any elastic and scalable web tier, the common services would be you should you should need load balancers, you should need auto scaling, and you should need EC2. That is what the web tier would do. Second question also speaks about database, but database is a different layer in itself. So second answer would be correct. A solution architect needs to create a publicly accessible EC2 instance by using an elastic IP address and generates a report on how it will cost to use that elastic IP. Which of the following statement is correct for the pricing of elastic IP? So there is no cost if the instance is running and it has at least two associated. No. If no cost if instance is terminated and it has only one. No. So the final answer, there is no cost if instance is running and it has only one associated IP. So instead of charging a price, they charge a penalty, which means you have to only pay if you are not utilizing the elastic IP and you have reserved it or blocked it. That is where the charge is counted. If you have elastic IP and it is getting utilized, then there is no charge or price for that. An intelligence agency is currently hosting a learning and training platform in AWS. Your manager instructed you to launch a large EC2 instance with an attached EBS volume and enable enhanced networking. What are the valid case scenarios in there in using enhanced networking? So again, I repeat, an intelligence agency is hosting a learning or a training portal, and your manager has instructed to launch EC2 instance with an attached EBS volume and enable enhanced networking. So when you should enable enhanced networking is the question. So of course, when you need a consistently lower inter-instance latency, when you need low packet per second performance, when you need high latency networking, when you need high packet per second, this is the correct. When you need a dedicated connection to your on-premise data center, no. When you need high latency, no, actually you need low latency, not the high. When you need a low packet flow, no. When you need a consistent lower instance, inter-instance latencies. A global news network created a CloudFront distribution for their web application. However, you notice that the application's origin server is being hit for each request instead of AWS edge locations. Which server the cached object? The issue occurs even for the commonly requested object. The cache control max age directive is set to 0. So I'll explain you since we have time. The CloudFront is the caching layer, and when the maximum age is 0, which means it doesn't cache. So whenever you hit CloudFront, the request is miss. It doesn't hit. It's not a hit. It's a miss. So it will go to the origin server. So it defeats the purpose of even having the CloudFront distribution if this directive is set to 0. A company launched a cryptocurrency mining server on EC2 instance in US East 1 region private subnet that uses IPv6. Due to the financial data that the server contains, the system should be secure to prevent any unauthorized access and to meet the regulatory compliance requirement. In this scenario, which VPC feature allows the EC2 instance to communicate to the internet but prevents inbound traffic? Due to financial data that the server contains, the system should be secure to prevent any unauthorized access and to meet the regulatory compliance. In this scenario, which VPC feature allow EC2 instance to communicate to internet but prevents the inbound traffic? So this would be egress only internet gateway, which is applicable only for IPv6. Otherwise, if it would have been IPv4, I would pick NAT gateway, which allows one-way communication. And egress means outgoing, like inbound. And I don't know why instead of saying outbound traffic, they called as egress. A startup created an AI-based traffic monitoring service. You need to register a new domain called so and so and set up the DNS entries for the other components of the system in AWS and set up the other DNS entries for the other components of the system in AWS. Which of the following is not supported by Route 53? This one is DNSSEC because SRV service locator PTR is point record, which is there. SPF is sender policy framework, which is also there. A company has a VPC for its human resource department and another VPC located in different region for their finance department. The solution architect must redesign the architecture to allow the finance department to access all resources that are in human resource department and vice versa. Which type of networking connection in AWS should the solution architect to safe set up to satisfy the above requirement? So this would be inter-region VPC peering. When we say office peers, right, that means you and your friend, and when you're peering means you are talking to each other. So same way here, they are saying that you have two different VPCs in two different regions, and you want all these to access to each other. So it will come as inter-region VPC peering. A company developed a financial analytics web application hosted in a Docker container using Mean, which is Mongo Express Angular Node stack. You want to easily port the web application to AWS Cloud, which can automatically handle all the tasks such as balancing, load, auto scaling, monitoring, and placing your containers across your clusters. Which of the following service be used to fulfill this? This is Elastic Beanstalk, because as you see, Elastic Beanstalk provide the automated way of deploying the web application without you doing anything. And this is what it asks, that easily port web application which automatically handle all these needs of auto scaling, monitoring, balancing, and placing your containers across the clusters. A startup is building IoT and monitoring applications. They are using IoT. IoT is Internet of Things, which means there are small devices and they can communicate or talk back with each other. So they are using IoT sensors to monitor the traffic in real time by using Amazon Kinesis Stream that is configured with default settings. It then sends the data to an Amazon S3 bucket every 3 days. When you check the data in S3 on the third day, only the data for the last day is present and no data is present for 2 days ago. What's the most likely cause of the issue? So what they are saying is there are IoT sensors, and then using the IoT sensors, you grab the data from the Internet of Things devices and put it in Amazon Kinesis Stream. Now there is a capacity of Kinesis stream that it would store the data in streams only for 24 hours. So this answer, by default, data records in Kinesis are only accessible for 24 hours from the time they are added to the stream. That is why the older records are not being pushed to S3. A multinational corporate and investment bank is regularly processing steady workload of accru- accruals, loan interests, and other critical financial calculation every 9 at 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., which means it's doing something in midnight on their on-premise data center for their corporate client. Once the process is done, the result are then uploaded to Oracle General Ledger, which means that the processing should not be delayed nor interrupted. The CTO has decided to move their IT infrastructure to AWS to save costs and to improve the scalability of the digital finance service. As the solution architect, how can you implement a cost-effective architecture in AWS? So use scheduled reserve instance, which provide compute capacity that is available on the specific recurring schedule. The need is that they already know the time, and during this time, just for 5 hours, they need compute power. So they can always schedule the reserve instances. So that if you go with on demand and for example they are not available, then it will be a problem. This is a critical workload, we don't want to take chances. If you go for spot instances, it can terminate with 2-minute notice, so that might interrupt the workload. Use dedicated host which provide a physical host that is fully dedicated to running your instance and bring your existing per socket per VM license. No, this is a nonsense option. A commercial bank has designed its next generation online banking platform to use a distributed system architecture. As their software architect, you have to ensure that their architecture is highly scalable yet still cost effective. Which of the following will provide the most suitable solution for their scenario, for this scenario? So launch an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances to host your application services and an SQS queue. Include the auto-scaling trigger to watch the SQS queue size, which will either scale in or scale out the number of EC instances based on the queue. This would be the most appropriate solution, which will still remain cost effective because when you scale in, you will start saving the money. A solution architect needs to set up the required compute resources for the application which have workload that require high sequential read and write access to very large data set on local storage. Uh, which of the following instance type is most suitable one to use in this scenario? So they are asking that it requires high sequential read and write. So it's sequential, it's not random, and it's high and a very large data set, and that too on local. Since the data set is very large, we should go with storage optimized instance. Why not general purpose? Why not memory? Because if we have HPC, then we'll go compute optimized. If we have graphic video gaming where we need more memory RAM, then this is memory optimized. But then since we are dealing with storage, it's that option. A mobile application stores pictures in S3 and allows application sign in or signing using OpenID Connect compatible identity provider. Which AWS security token service approach to temporarily access should you use for this scenario? So they are saying that mobile application stores pictures in S3 and allows application sign in using an OpenID Connect compatible identity providers. So OpenID Connect compatible identity providers are Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. So that all comes under Web Identity Federation. So your mobile application can allow the login through any of these social media uh, OpenID Connect based logins, and that can be done. When to use SAML Identity Federation? When you have Active Directory or some other application, then you would go into SAML and Identity Broker and other things like that. Cross account access is not good, and AWS Identity and Access Management role is a feature in AWS IAM. A tech company is running two products. Sorry, a tech company is running two production web server hosted on reserved EC2 instances with EBS backed root volume. So they have EBS root volume. What does it mean is you can get rid of the instance and then later on you can spin up another instance. The operating system related data would be persisted in EBS instead of instance backed volume. These instances have a these instances have a consistent CPU load of 90%. Traffic is being distributed to these instances by an elastic load balancer. These instances have a consistent CPU load, and traffic is distributed by these instances by ELB. In addition, they also have multi-AZ RDS MySQL database for their production, test, and development environment. What would you recommend to reduce cost without affecting availability and performance of mission critical system? So the problem which I see here is they have multi-AZ RDS. So multi-AZ is always expensive and it is for everything, production, test and development. So we should consider not using multi-AZ RDS deployment for development and test database. A top university has recently launched its online learning portal where the student can take e-learning courses from the comfort of their home. The portal is on a large on-demand EC2 instance with a single Amazon Aurora database. How can you improve the availability of Aurora database to prevent any unnecessary downtime of the online portal? Create Amazon replicas or use asynchronous key perfect in Aurora to improve performance of query? No. Deploy Aurora to two auto scaling group that cannot be possible. Enable hash join to improve database? No. So what we'll do is they are saying how can you improve availability of Aurora database to prevent unnecessary downtime. So if you have a replica, then let's say if the primary goes down, you can switch to the replica, the read replica or whatever. Replica means the duplicate, replicated version. A company plans to launch an application that tracks the GPS coordinates of delivery truck in the country. The coordinates are transmitted from each delivery truck every 5 seconds. You need to design an architecture that will enable real-time processing of these coordinates from multiple consumers. The aggregated data will be analyzed in a separate reporting application. Which AWS service should you use? So you need real-time processing. Whenever you hear real-time processing, you might want to do kinesis, because in queuing you think that you will queue up and later on you can retrieve data and delete the item from the queue. In data pipeline, it is like Jenkins. It's the CI/CD pipeline. And AppStream, I am not really sure. It is probably for the mobile app application. So we'll go with Kinesis because the data is huge and it is real time. And then you also, the aggregated data will be analyzed. So the tool may be Redshift. It can read data from the streams and then do the analysis on it, or Firehose. A company has an application architecture that stores both the access key ID and the secret access key in plain text file on a custom AMI. The EC2 instance which are created by using this AMI are using the stored access key to connect to the DynamoDB table. What should the solution architect do to make the current architecture more secure? Now, if keys, like secret IDs are in AMI image, if someone gets hold of that image and they steal it, technically they can access your DynamoDB from anywhere, probably because they have the access key and access ID. So it's not a secure way of doing this. So you have to remove the stored access keys in AMI, create a new IAM role with permission to access the DynamoDB table and assign it to EC instance is the correct solution. A tech company is having an issue whenever they try to connect to the newly created ECU instances using the remote desktop connection from a computer. Upon checking, the solutions architect has verified that the instance has a public IP and the internet gateway and route tables are in place. What else should he do to resolve the issue? So he should adjust the security group to allow the port 3389, which is the remote desktop connection port. Probably this was not the inbound, it might be missing in the inbound rule of the security group of EC2. A solutions architect need to launch a web application that will be served globally using CloudFront. The application is hosted in EC2 instance, which will be configured as the origin server to process and secure dynamic content to its customers. Which of the following option provide high availability for the application? So provisioning two EC2 instances deployed in different availability zone and configure them to be part of an origin group. This seems good, but let's see. Launch a auto scaling group of EC2 instances and configuring it to be part of origin group. Using S3 to serve dynamic content. That's not possible in S3. And Lambda H to improve the performance of web application. This cannot be done because you have EC2 instance doing things. So among these two, correct answer could happen, but auto scaling group might have the EC2 instances in the same availability zone. So what we'll do is we will have availability zone, sorry, EC2 for failover, right? Or the high availability. First option is correct. So we are down about how 15 minutes, 25 minutes, and we have done about 20 questions. So we are doing good, almost 1 minute, 20 seconds per question. So speed should be this much. So we'll have more time at the end to revise. An application is hosted in ASG of EC2 instances and a Microsoft SQL server on Amazon RDS. There is a requirement that all in-flight data between your web servers and RDS should be secure. Which of the following option is most suitable solution that you should implement? Force all connection to your DB instance to use SSL by setting the RDS force SSL parameter to true. Once done, you have to reboot instance. Now with Microsoft SQL, to make sure that change takes effect, you might have to restart. Enable the IAMDB authentication in RDS using the AWS console. So they have the requirement that all in-flight data between web server and RDS should be secure. Specify TDE option in RDS option group that associate with TB instance to enable transparent data encryption. Download the Amazon RDS root CS certificate. Yes, this should be the good one. And import the certificate to your servers and configure your application to use SSL to encrypt the connection to RDS. So all in-flight data, which means when data leaves your web tier and then it goes to your data tier, you want some kind of encryption over there. That is what we are trying to do with this by downloading the CA root certificate. And SSL is secure socket layer, which secures or encrypts all the data in transit. A company would like to uh, archive their old yet confidential corporate files that are infrequently accessed. Which is most cost effective solution in AWS that you would recommend? Glacier. A company created a VPC with a single subnet, then launched an on-demand EC2 instance in that subnet. You have attached an internet gateway to the VPC and verified that EC2 instance has a public IP. The main route table of the VPC is as shown. So this one has the default VPC subnet. Okay, this is route table. These are EC2 instances. And then you have route table. So whatever would come to internal subnet, it would go locally. However, the instance still cannot be reached from internet when you try to connect it from your computer. Should be made to the which of the following should be made to the route table to fix the issue. So here there is no target internet route. So you should do that anything which is being sent to internet, it should go to your internet gateway. So 0.0.0, when that is the destination, or any traffic which would come from there, it should get connected with internet gateway. In a tech company that you are working for, there is a requirement to allow one IAM user to modify the configuration of one of your ELB, which is used in a specific project. Each developer or company has an individual IAM user, and they usually move from one project to another. Which of the following would be the best way to allow this access? Open up the port that ELB uses in security group. Create a new IAM role which will be assumed by the IAM user. Attach a policy allowing access to modify ELB, and once it's done, remove the IAM role. Create new IAM user that has access to modify ELB. Provide the user temporary access to the root. No, this one is the most appropriate. A company is using Amazon S3 to store frequently accessed data. S3 bucket is shared with external users that will upload files regularly. A solution architect need to implement a solution that will grant the bucket owner full access to all uploaded objects in S3. What action should be done? So it would be this. So what happens is account has the permission for the ACL, access control list in S3. So when you create a bucket policy, that will require the user to set objects ACL. So bucket owner full control you might have to provide. That way, if some user is creating the bucket, he would have the full control. A solution architect is working for a weather station in Asia with a weather monitoring system that needs to be migrated to AWS. Since the monitoring system requires a low network latency and high network throughput, The architect decided to launch the EC2 instance to a new cluster placement group. The system was working fine for a couple of weeks. However, when they try to add new instance to the placement group that already has running EC2 instances, they receive an insufficient capacity error. How will the architect fix this issue? Submit a capacity increase request because initial is 12. This, I thought this could be the one, but let's read other. Create another placement group and launch the new instance. Stop and restart the instance in placement group and then try the launch again. Verify all running instances are of same size. No, that's bullshit. So I think stop and start the instance in placement group. Why? Because when you do cluster placement group is made for to facilitate the faster instance communication or networking. So in a hypervisor or in a hardware, once you there is no capacity and you try to add another instance, it would give you error. So what you have to do is you have, when you restart, it would find a hardware which can accommodate all your virtual machines in the same clustered or same underlying hardware. That is why if machine is VM is not available in that particular underlying hardware, you get this insufficient capacity error. And by restarting, might you will be okay. A software development company has hundreds of EC2 instances with multiple ALBs across multiple regions. The public application hosted in EC2 instances are accessed on their on-premises network. The company needs to reduce the number of IP addresses that it needs to regularly whitelist on the corporate firewall device. Which of the following approach can be used to fulfill this requirement? So this is simple. I have also faced this issue that there are hundreds of EC2 instances. And for example, the public hosted EC2 instances are accessed in on-premise. So in my on-premise application, I need those IP address to whitelist. And if EC2 instance is restarted or terminated, and then the IP might change. So what should I do to solve that problem? Launch a new network load balancer with an associated elastic IP. Set the ALB in multiple region as target. Use AWS Global Accelerator and create an endpoint group for all the available AWS regions associated or associate all the ALB in multiple region. Use Global Accelerator and create multiple endpoint for all the available AWS region. Associate all private IP address of the EC2 instances to the corresponding endpoints. Create a new Lambda function that tracks and changes the IP address of all ALB. Schedule the job to run and update the corporate firewall every hour. So this is not practical. First is not practical. Actually, first can be done. Launch a network load balancer with an associated IP address and set the ALB in multiple region. No, this is not possible. So between these two, the answer should be. So let's mark this for review. If we'll get time at the end, we'll discuss about this. So we have only 1.5 hours to complete and we are almost half done. A company has an application that uses multiple EC2 instances located in various AWS regions such as US East Ohio, US West North California, and EU, which is Europe, Ireland. The manager instructed the solutions architect to set up a latency based routing to route incoming traffic for tutorialdojo.com to all the EC2 instances across all the AWS region. Which of the following option can satisfy this? Use network load balancer? No, it doesn't have the latency based. Uh, Use Route 53 to distribute load to multiple EC2 instances based on the latency. That's the correct answer. The multinational manufacturing company has multiple accounts in AWS to separate their various departments such as finance, human resources, engineering, and many more. There is a requirement to ensure that the certain access to services and actions are properly controlled to comply with the security policy of the company. As the solution architect, which is the most suitable way to set up the multi-account AWS environment of the company? So set up a common IAM policy that can be applied across all. No. Use AWS organization and service control policy to control services on each account. That should be the proper answer. A manufacturing company launched a new type of IoT sensor. The sensor will be used to collect large streams of data records. The need to create a solution that can ingest and analyze the data in real time with millisecond response time. So manufacturing company has launched new type of sensors. That's fine. Sensor will be used to collect large stream of data records. Okay. And then you need to create a solution that can ingest all the large stream, analyze them in real time, and that too with millisecond response time. Which of the following is the best option that you should implement? So ingest data using Amazon Kinesis data stream to create AWS function to store data in Amazon Redshift. Ingest data with, this is same, but it is saying to store in DynamoDB. This is saying ingest in SQS. SQS is not real time, sorry. Ingest data using Firehose and create AWS Lambda function to store data in DynamoDB. Probably this could be the one. Why? Because it is talking about Firehose and it is also talking about the ingest and analyze. So you will put the data in Firehose and then you will analyze, and then the real-time analysis, whatever is the result, that can be stored quickly in DynamoDB. We'll still mark it for review and we'll see it at the end. I hope this is right. A company plans to design an application that can handle batch processing of large amounts of financial data. The solution architect is tasked to create two S3 buckets to store the input and output data. The application will transfer the data between multiple EC2 instances over the network to complete the data processing. Which of the following option would reduce the data transfer cost? So deploy EC2 instance in same availability zone? Yes. because any data which is passed using the private IP and within the same availability zone is free. A global medical research company has a molecular imaging system that provides each client with frequently updated images of what is happening inside the human body at the molecular and cellular level. The system is hosted in AWS and the images are hosted in an S3 bucket behind the CloudFront web distribution. There was a new batch of updated images that were uploaded in S3. However, the user were reporting that they're still seeing the old content. You need to control which image will be returned by the system, even when the user has another version cached either locally or behind the corporate caching proxy. Which of the following is most suitable solution to solve this issue? So invalidate the file in CloudFront will remove the data. But if company has cached it in corporate cache, then this solution would not work. Add cache, no store, or private directive, that will defeat the purpose of even using the CloudFront. Add a separate cache behavior path for the content and configuring this should. So better ways use the version. So whenever that specific version is not there, it would be called and cached. A company has a fleet of running Spot EC2 instances behind an application load balancer. The incoming traffic comes from various users across multiple AWS regions. The incoming traffic comes from various users across multiple AWS regions, and you would like to have the user session shared among the fleet of instances. You are required to set up a distributed session management layer that will provide a scalable and shard data storage from the user session. Which of the following would be best choice to meet the requirement while still providing sub-millisecond latency? So we are talking about sub-millisecond latency. I would go with elastic cache in memory caching, because that is capable of giving you some millisecond latency when you are trying to store user session data, and that too for there are spot instances, so instance might go away anytime, so the servers will come and go, and you need also to be the distributed session management layer. A construction company has an online system that tracks all of the statuses and progress of their projects. The system is hosted in AWS, and there is a requirement to monitor the read and write IOPS metrics for their MySQL RDS instance and send real-time alert to their DevOps team. Which of the following services in AWS can you use to meet the requirement? So we have to use two. There is a construction company that has an online system that tracks all the status and progress of their project. So you need to monitor the read and write IOPS metrics and send real-time alerts to DevOps. For sending alerts, there is simple notification service. And for watching, there is CloudWatch. A multinational company has been building its new data analytics platform with high performance compute workload HPC, which require a scalable POSIX compliant storage service. The data needs to be stored redundantly across multiple AZs and allow concurrent connections from thousands of EC2 instances hosted on multiple availability zones. Which of the following AWS service is most suitable? So the interesting thing is the data needs to be stored redundantly, which means multiple copies of the data across multiple AZs and also allow concurrent access of the data from thousands of EC2 instances hosted on multiple zone availability zone. So you can of course not pick EBS because EBS volume will be one on one, and then Amazon Elastic File System. EFS would be the correct solution. A company deployed a web application to an EC2 instance that adds a variety of photo effects to a picture uploaded by user. The application will put the generated photo to S3 bucket by sending put request to the S3 API. What is the best option for this scenario considering that you need to have the API credential to be able to send a request to S3 API? Create a role in IAM, afterward assign this role to the new EC2 instance, store the API credential in root web application, store your API credential, encrypt the API credential and store it any directory. No. Create a role in IAM, afterwards assign this role to new EC2 instance. This is the best approach. So we are almost there. We have to do almost 30 questions and we have about 50 minutes. So 30 multiplied by 2 is 60 minutes. And how much time we have? We have 40 and 10, 50 minutes. So 30 and 50. So we are losing time actually. No, we are good because 30 multiplied by 2 is 60. And do we have 60 minutes? Yes, we have 80 minutes. An online shopping platform has been deployed to AWS using Elastic Beanstalk. They simply upload their Node.js application and Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the details of capacity provisioning, load balancing, scaling, and application health monitoring. Since the entire deployment process is automated, the DevOps team is not sure where to get the application log files of their shopping platform. In Elastic Beanstalk, where does it store the application file and server logs? So application files are stored in S3. The server logs can be optionally stored in S3 or in CloudWatch logs. A company has several unencrypted EBS snapshots in their VPC. The solution architect must ensure that all the new EBS volumes restored from the unencrypted snapshots are automatically encrypted. What should be done to accomplish this requirement? Enable the EBS encryption by default feature for specific EBS volumes. Mhm. So what they mean is solution architect must ensure that all the new EBS volumes restored from the unencrypted snapshots are automatically encrypted. Yeah, let's go with this. The game development company operates several VR and augmented reality games which use various RESTful web API hosted on their on-premises data center. Due to the unprecedented growth of their company, they decided to migrate their system to AWS cloud to scale out their resources as well as to minimize cost. Which of the following should you recommend as the most cost effective and scalable solution to meet the above requirement? So they operate, they have VR, augmented reality with various RESTful web API hosted on their on premises server. I would go with AWS Lambda and API because not only they are cost effective, but they can meet the demand at any scale. A software development company needs to connect its on-premises infrastructure to the AWS cloud. Which of the following AWS service can you use to accomplish this? So they have on-premise infrastructure and they need to connect to AWS cloud. So first thing is you will create the VPN connection, and second thing is you can go with AWS Direct Connect. Direct Connect will provide a dedicated connection through your ISP to the cloud between on premises and AWS cloud. A company hosted a movie streaming app in AWS. The application is deployed to several EC2 instances on multiple availability zones. Which of the following configuration allow the load balancer to distribute incoming requests evenly to all instances across multiple availability zones? It should be cross-zone load balancing. A solution architect is trying to enable a cross-region replication to an S3 bucket, but this option is disabled. Which of the following option is a valid reason for this? Yeah, so third option, the in order to use the cross-region replication, you must first enable the versioning on the bucket because the other S3 buckets in other region they catch up based on the version. It's a asynchronous process. A solution architect is developing a three-tier cryptocurrency web application for a fintech startup. The architect has been instructed to restrict access to the database tier to only accept traffic from the application tier and deny traffic from other sources. The application tier is composed of application servers hosted in an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. So essentially, the architect has been instructed to restrict access to the database tier to only accept traffic from application tier and deny traffic from other sources. The application tier is composed of application servers hosted on auto-scaling group of EC2. Which of the following is most suitable? So set up a network ACL of the database subnet to deny all inbound non-database traffic from subnet. Set up the security group of the database tier to allow database traffic from a specific list of application server IP addresses. Set up a security of database tier to allow database traffic from the security group of application tier. So please remember that in security group, you can do it either by IP address or by the security group. So what you need is there is a database layer or EC2 instance, and you will allow by the virtue of security group that the application security group can only be accessed. So it is a mapping of security group instead of using the IP, because IP address can change, and that is not a very elegant way of doing things by doing IP address, even though it would work. But with security group, it is very, very solid and non-maintainable way of doing things. There is a technical requirement by financial firm that does online credit card processing to have a secure application environment on AWS. They are trying to decide on whether to use KMS or Cloud HSM. Which of the following statement is right when it comes to Cloud HSM versus KMS? Cloud HSM is hardware, dedicated hardware to secure the master keys, and KMS is key management service. So no difference. You should consider AWS Cloud HSM over KMS if you require your key stored in dedicated third-party validated hardware security module under your exclusive control. Yes, that is the correct answer. If you want a managed service for creating and controlling your encryption keys but don't want or need to operate your own HSM, consider using AWS Cloud. That's not the correct. A computer animation film studio has a web application running on EC2. It uploads 5 GB video object to S3 bucket. Video uploads are taking longer than expected, which impacts the performance of your application. Which method will help improve the performance of application? Enable enhanced networking. So networking will happen when two computers are trying to connect and passing a lot of traffic. That time you might do enhanced networking, or and you might need enhanced networking adapter. Here you should do multi-part upload. What this would do is it will break the 5 GB file in, let's say, 10 small streams, and then the file can be uploaded in 1/10 of the time, instead if you do it all together in a single stream. A company require corporate IT governance and cost oversight of all its AWS resources across its divisions across the world. Around the world, sorry, I misread. The corporate division want to maintain administrative control of the discrete AWS resource they consume and ensure that those resources are separate from other divisions. Which of the following option will support the autonomy of each corporate division while enabling the corporate IT to maintain governance and cost oversight? Select two. Create separate VPC for each division within the corporate IT AWS accounts. That is smart. Create separate availability zones for each divisions. Use trusted advisory. Enable IAM cross-account access for all corporate IT administrator in each child account. Use AWS consolidated billing by creating AWS organization to link all the division account to parent corporate account. So what we are doing is their corporation want to maintain administrative control of discrete resources they consume and ensure that those resources are separate from other divisions. So if you will create different VPCs, each VPC is a different division in itself. And then if you will enable cross account access, what does this mean? Because you have one account, but you're saying cross account access for all corporate IT. So cost oversight, this should not be done actually. This should not be done. This should be done. Cross account access, use AWS consolidated billing by creating AWS organization to link the division's account to parent. A web application which is hosted in your on-premises data center and uses MySQL database must be migrated to AWS cloud. You need to ensure that the network traffic to and from the RDS instance is encrypted using SSL. For improved security, you have to use the profile credentials specific to your EC2 instance to access your database instead of a password. Which of the following should you do to meet the above requirement? So let's understand that there is a web application which is hosted on on-premise data center, which means inside your corporate network, and it uses MySQL database. That must be migrated to cloud. That is fine. You need to ensure the network traffic to and from the RDS database like MySQL instance is encrypted. So we are looking for encryption. So two things here. First is you are looking for encryption. Second is you are looking for the profile credential specific to your EC2 instance that can access. So you want passwordless connectivity. So configure your RDS to enable encryption, launch RDS instance, backtrack feature, use RDS database and enable the IAM-DB authentication, launch MySQL using --SSL CA parameter when connecting to the database. So if you would go with IAM-DB authentication, which means you do not need the password. Any IAM role or EC2 instance would be able to connect, and those connections are by default SSL enabled. A company plans to implement a network monitoring system in AWS. The solution architect launched an EC2 instance to host the monitoring system and used CloudWatch to monitor, store, and access the log files of the instances. Which of the following providers provides an automated way to send log data to CloudWatch logs from the Amazon EC2 instance? A company plans to implement a network monitoring system. Hmm. A solution architect launched an EC2 instance to host the monitoring system and used CloudWatch to monitor, store, and access the log files of the instance. Which of the following provides an automated way to send log data to CloudWatch logs? So these are log agents, CloudWatch log agent. Once you install it on EC2 instances, they would grab the memory usage, disk usage, and lot of other data and will push it to the CloudWatch logs. A DevOps engineer has created a CloudFormation template for a web application, and she raised a pull request in Git for you to check and review. After checking the template, you immediately told her that the template will not work. Which of the following is the reason why CloudFormation template will fail? So I think it has the parameters wherein you have VDC ID, you also have the subnet, you have output, but seems like there is no resource. What resource you would like the cloud formation to do? Is it S3 or what? So the resource section is missing. A web application is hosted on a fleet of EC2 instance inside an ASG with a couple of Lambda functions for ad hoc processing. Whenever you release updates to your application every week, there are inconsistencies where some resources are not updated properly. You need a way to group the resources together and deploy the new version of your code consistently among the group with minimal downtime. Which among these options should you do to satisfy the given requirement with least efforts? So why I put use deployment group in code deploy to automate code deployments in a consistent manner, because cloud formation will provision the resources. It is not responsible. It's infrastructure as code. It is not responsible for deployment. Now opworks can do, if you have ops work, recipe will automatically launch new resources containing the latest code version. But ops work is mainly maintaining the server, patching the server, and things like that. Code commit is like GitHub. So uh, instead of using GitHub, you can use code commit to push your code. A cryptocurrency company wants to go global and its international money transfer app with its international transferring money app. Your project is to make sure that the database of the app is highly available in multiple regions. What are the benefit of adding multi-easy deployment in Amazon RDS significantly increased the database performance. That is not true. Provides SQL optimization. Increase the database availability in case of the system upgrades like OS patching. So availability, yes, and DB instance scaling, and creates a primary DB instance and synchronously replicates the data to a standby instance in a different availability zone. These are the two things. A company is using an RDS for MySQL with multi-AZ deployment enabled and several web servers across the AWS regions. The database is currently experiencing highly dynamic reads due to the growth of company's website. The solution architect tried to test the read performance from the secondary AWS region and noticed a notable slowdown on SQL query. Which of the following option would provide a read replication latency of less than 1 second? So the best option is migrate the existing database to Amazon Aurora and create a cross-region read replica that would ensure that you have the latency of less than 1 second. An online stock trading system is hosted in AWS and uses an ASG of EC2 instances, an RDS database, and an Amazon Elastic Cache for Redis. You need to improve the data security of your in-memory data stores by requesting the user to enter a password before they are granted permission to execute Redis commands. Which of the following should you do to meet the above requirement? So this would be the option. So the scenario is you have a Redis cluster. Cluster means you have multiple servers. And then what you want is from the Redis, one should not read the data just like that. So you need to enable the encryption. A solution architect created a brand new IAM user with a default setting using AWS CLI. This is intended to be used to send API requests to S3, DynamoDB, Lambda, and other AWS resources for the company's cloud infrastructure. Which of the following must be done to allow the user to make API calls to AWS resources? Create a set of access key for the user and attach the necessary permissions. A startup is building a microservice architecture in which the software is composed of small independent services that communicate over well-defined APIs. In building large-scale system, fine-grained decoupling of microservices is a recommended practice to implement. The decoupling services should scale horizontally from each other to improve scalability. What is the difference between horizontal and vertical scaling? Vertical scaling means running the same software on a, no, this first is wrong, on a bigger machine, which is limited by the capacity of the individual server. Horizontal scaling is adding more servers to the existing pool and doesn't run into limitations of individual servers. An application is using a Lambda function to process complex financial data that runs for 15 minutes on average. Most invocations were successfully processed. However, you notice that there are a few terminated invocations throughout the day which cause data discrepancy in the application. Which of the following is most likely cause? The lambda function contains the lambda function have been running for over 15 minutes and reach the maximum execution time. Default is 15-minute execution time. A company deployed a fleet of Windows based EC2 instance with IPv4 addresses launched in a private subnet. Several software installed in the EC2 instances are required to be updated via the internet. Which of the following services can provide the firm a highly available solution to safely allow the instances to fetch the software patches from the internet but prevent outside network from initiating a connection? That would be net gateway because this is IPv4. Otherwise, it could have been egress. A startup building a AI-based face recognition application in AWS where they store millions of images in an S3 bucket. As the solutions architect, you have to ensure that each and every image uploaded to their system is stored without any error. What is the correct indication that an object was successfully stored when you put object in S3? HTTP 200 result code and a MD5 checksum. A solution architect designed a real-time data analytics system based on Kinesis data stream and Lambda. A week after, a week after the system has been A solution architect designed a real-time data analytics system based on Kinesis data stream and Lambda. A week after the system has been deployed, the users notice that it performed slowly as the data rate changed. The architect identifies that the performance of Kinesis data stream is causing this problem. Which of the following should the architect do to improve performance? Increase the number of shards of the Kinesis stream by using the update shard count command. A solution architect is managing a three-tier web application that processes credit card payment and online transaction. Static web pages are used on the front end tier, while the application tier contains a single EC2 instance that handles long-running process. The data is stored in MySQL database. The solution architect is instructed to decouple the tiers to create a highly available application. Which of the following option can satisfy the given requirement? Move all the assets and the web page to CloudFront, use auto scaling in EC2, migrate database to RDS with multi-easy deployment configuration. A company needs to launch a new MySQL RDS database to its new data analytics application. The solution architect need to ensure that the database tier must be able to quickly recover from a system crash. Which of the below is not a recommended practice for RDS? Use MyISM as a storage engine. Is not what is recommended. It is recommended that partition your large data, use InnoDB, and ensure the automated backup because in ISM it doesn't recover. Question 62. A company plans to use a cloud storage service to temporarily store its log file. The number of files to be stored is still unknown, but it only needs to be kept for 12 hours. Which of the following is most cost effective solution? If it is for 12 hours, then you should go with S3 standard. A company has several EC2 reserve instances in their application that need to be decommissioned and shut down since they are no longer used by the development team. However, the data is still required by the audit team and for compliance purpose. Which of the following can be taken in this scenario? Take snapshot of EBS volume and terminate the EC2 instances. This is correct. And convert EC2 instance. You can opt to sell EC2 instance in the marketplace. A company is planning to deploy HPC cluster in its VPC that requires a scalable high performance file system. The storage service must be optimized for effective workload processing, and the data must be accessible via a fast and scalable file system interface. It should also work natively with S3 that enables you to easily process your S3 data with a high performance POX interface. Which of the following is most suitable service? EFS. Actually, Amazon FX for Lusher. And the last question, a fast food company is using AWS to host their online ordering system. It uses an ASG of EC2 deployed across multiple availability zone with a application load balancer in front. To better handle the incoming traffic from various digital devices, you are planning to implement a new routing system where requests which have URL of server API Android are forwarded to one specific target group named target, and conversely requests from which you have URL as iOS are forwarded to another separate iOS target group. Which one is the solution? So you should use path condition to define rule that forward the request to different target group based on URL. Replace the ALB, use host condition to define rule of forward request based on host name, replace ALB. And this one was the last question. Let's see what is our score. And I believe we will pass the test. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Yay! 93%. Yay! So let us review what were wrong and then we will finish this video. So we'll go with incorrect. Yes, so we kept this one for review for sure. So the correct answer was the first one. And then This was incorrect because we had to, it is by default enabled. This was the second incorrect. And then this one was the third. We had to pick two options. So we picked first correct. Second one was supposed to provide enhanced database durability. And then our fourth and the last incorrect answer was this one, wherein we were supposed to move all assets and rehost the application. And that is all. We only did four mistakes, and rest everything was good. And congratulations, we got 93%. Thanks for watching. Please like the video if you think the whatever my efforts were useful for you to prepare for your exam, and see you in next video. You can read in the description. I have posted another mock test for the preparation, so that might also help you. Thanks. Bye.